The first time I died, it was raining. Not the kind of soft, gentle rain that soothes your soul, but a cold, merciless downpour. Like the world itself wanted to wash me away without a trace. I stood at the gates of the hospital, soaked through, holding a divorce agreement that still had his signature, fresh and wet with ink. My hands trembled, not because of the cold, but because I had finally given up. Given up on a marriage I had poured 10 years of my life into. Given up on a man who never once truly looked back at me. Ryan had always been ambitious, the kind of man who walked into a room and owned it without saying a word. People admired him, his sharp mind, his military rank, his effortless charm. And I had loved him, blindly, deeply, enough to give up my own dreams, my career, even my family's expectations. I stood by him when no one else did. I celebrated every promotion, endured every late night, and stayed quiet through every suspicion that grew in the dark corners of our home. But love doesn't survive on sacrifice alone, and mine was left to rot in silence. The divorce wasn't a surprise. He didn't even argue, just signed the papers and left without asking a single question. That same night, as I crossed the street, lost in thought, a car's headlights cut through the rain, and then nothing. When I woke up, everything was wrong, or rather, too familiar. The scent of ink and books, the old family apartment, my university notes sprawled across the desk. I blinked, confused, until I looked in the mirror and saw the face I hadn't seen in years. Mine, but younger. I was 20 again. Panic twisted inside me, but it didn't take long to understand what had happened. I'd been given a second chance, a second life. And in this life, Ryan was still there, handsome, full of dreams, the same hopeful smile that had once made my heart race. But I was no longer that naive girl who fell too easily. I remembered everything. The betrayal, the loneliness, the moment I realized I meant nothing more than a step on his path to power. So I made a decision. I wouldn't fight for him this time. I wouldn't chase after love that didn't want me. I would rebuild my life, brick by brick, and this time, for me. But fate is a strange, cruel thing. Just when I thought I had finally broken free, I saw him again, standing in the university courtyard, holding a velvet box, smiling nervously, in front of another woman. Nora. She was the kind of girl people noticed instantly, graceful, elegant, and always surrounded by admirers. In our past life, she had been Ryan's colleague. In this one, she had taken the place I used to hold without hesitation. I watched from the hallway, invisible but not untouched. My heart didn't break this time. It had already shattered once. This time it simply stilled, and then he saw me. Ryan's smile faltered. His hands stiffened around the box. Nora turned to see what had caught his attention, but it was too late. Our eyes met. It was the first time we had truly looked at each other since I came back, and in that brief second, I saw everything flash across his face. Recognition, confusion, and something else. Was it guilt? Regret? He stepped forward, calling my name like it still belonged to him. But I just smiled, nodded politely, and walked. Away. I didn't cry. I didn't stop. And I didn't turn back. Because this time, I wouldn't beg. This time, I would let go. And that was when everything changed. What I didn't know was that walking away would set off a chain of events I couldn't control. That Ryan's perfect world would begin to crack the moment I stopped trying to be a part of it. That Nora, his perfect choice, had secrets of her own, and that the second life I'd been given wasn't just a chance to escape him, but a test to see what I would do when he came running back. Because Ryan Carter had always been good at chasing dreams. He just never thought I would become one. And as I stood on the edge of a future that no longer needed him, I realized something else. Maybe the most powerful revenge isn't anger or spite. Maybe it's becoming everything they said you couldn't be without them. But what happens when the man who once threw you away suddenly refuses to let go? When he says he remembers everything? And what if he's not the only one who came back from the past? After that moment in the courtyard, Ryan didn't stay quiet. I thought walking away would close that chapter. I truly believed that if I left without looking back, he would go on with his life and forget I ever existed. But I was wrong, very wrong. He started appearing everywhere, outside my dorm, at the library, even at my part-time cafe job, always with that same look, half confused, half desperate. At first, I ignored him. I told myself it was just guilt eating away at him. Maybe seeing me alive and well, without begging for his attention, made him uncomfortable. Maybe he just needed closure. But Ryan didn't want closure. He wanted answers. "Who are you really?" he asked one afternoon, blocking my path outside campus. His voice was low, steady, but I saw the storm in his eyes. "You're not the same girl from orientation. You know too much. You look at me like you've already lived a lifetime with me." I didn't respond. How could I explain that I had once been his wife, that I had waited countless nights for him to come home, that I had cried alone in our apartment while he texted someone else under the table? Instead, I just smiled, like none of it mattered anymore. "Some people grow faster than others," I said softly, then walked away again. But that wasn't the end. As I tried to move on, I threw myself into building the life I never had before. I joined a research project I had once given up. I reconnected with friends I had abandoned in my old timeline. I even started getting closer to someone I never paid much attention to before, Liam. Liam was the quiet kind, always buried in his books, always kind, always watching from a distance. In my past life, I had barely noticed him, but now I saw everything. How he'd stand up for others when no one else did. How he remembered the tiniest details. How he never once asked for more than I was willing to give. With Liam, I could breathe. There were no unspoken rules, no pressure to prove myself, no fear of betrayal lurking around the corner. But Ryan wasn't used to losing. One night, I found him waiting outside my apartment, not angry, not cold, just lost. "I don't know what I did to hurt you," he said quietly. "But every time I see you with him, I feel like I'm losing something I never even knew I had." I looked at him and felt nothing. Not hate, not love, just a dull ache of something that used to be. "You didn't lose me now," I whispered. "You lost me then." That night marked a shift. Ryan started questioning everything. His feelings, his past, even his own memories. He couldn't explain it, but he said he had dreams, vivid flashes of another life, a home that felt too real, a woman he used to love, arguments he couldn't forget, regrets that kept him awake at night. It scared him, and that's when things got complicated. Nora wasn't who she seemed. At first, she played the sweet, supportive girlfriend role well, but slowly, cracks began to show. She didn't like how distracted Ryan became. She didn't like that his attention was drifting, and she definitely didn't like that it was drifting toward me. She started showing up at places I was, pretending it was coincidence. She would slip snide comments into conversations. She even tried to get me removed from a campus project, claiming I had conflicts of interest. But it wasn't just jealousy. One day, while volunteering at the library archives, I stumbled upon something strange. A file tucked away in the back of an old student report. It contained information about a research grant under Nora's name, but the proposal was copied, word for word, from one I had written years ago. In my past life, chills ran through me. How could she have it? How could she know something I had never even submitted in this timeline? The answer was terrifying. I wasn't the only one who came back. Nora remembered too. And unlike me, she wasn't here to fix anything. She was here to win. Suddenly, everything made sense. Her calculated charm, her obsession with Ryan, her sudden rise in academics. She had used her knowledge of the future to position herself perfectly, and I was the only thing in her way. But I wasn't the girl she thought I was. I had been broken, rebuilt, and this time, I wasn't afraid to fight. The tension grew fast. Ryan found himself pulled between two versions of his life. One he barely remembered, and one that was starting to feel hollow. He watched as Nora's mask slowly slipped. He heard whispers of her manipulation. He saw the difference in how I moved now. Free, unburdened, untouchable. One night, it all came to a head. Ryan confronted Nora about the stolen project. She denied it, of course. Tears, drama, every excuse in the book. But the damage was done. He started digging, and what he found made his world collapse. Emails, schedules, fake recommendations. Nora had built her future on lies, and at the center of it all was me. I never wanted revenge. I only wanted peace, but fate had tied our lives together in a knot that none of us could escape. And just when I thought the storm was over, something else surfaced. Something buried deep in the shadows of my past life. A letter, one I had written before I died. A letter that held the truth about why I really left Ryan the first time. And that letter was no longer in my possession. Someone else had it now, and they were about to use it to destroy everything and everyone. The moment I found out the letter was missing, a cold chill ran through me. It was the one thing I had kept hidden, even from myself. A reminder of everything I had endured, and why I had walked away from Ryan in the first place. In my past life, I wrote it on the night I left our home. I had tucked it away in a journal, never intending for him to read it. But now, someone had it, and I had no idea what they planned to do with it. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. That week, whispers started circling around campus about how I wasn't who I said I was, that I had manipulated Ryan, broken up his relationship, and used lies to climb socially and academically. They were repeating my own words from the letter, every vulnerable thought, every line of pain and regret, every quiet confession. It was all being twisted, and the only person who could have done it was Nora. She had nothing left to lose now. Ryan had distanced himself. Professors had begun questioning her academic record. Her carefully constructed future was falling apart, and she wanted someone to blame. That someone was me. At first, I tried to stay calm. I kept my head down. I focused on my work. I told myself it would pass. But when even Liam began asking, "Did you really write that?" I knew it was time to speak up. I called for a student hearing, not to defend myself, but to tell the truth, all of it. And when I stood there, in front of a room full of people, heart racing, palms shaking, I didn't speak from a place of fear. I spoke from experience. I told them who I used to be, the girl who gave up everything for someone who never saw her, the woman who came back, not to get revenge, but to rebuild. I didn't name Nora. I didn't have to. The truth had a way of finding its way out. Just days later, a professor stepped forward, revealing that Nora had submitted 2 proposals, one of which matched the stolen project exactly. Evidence followed. messages, voice notes, even a video, accidentally recorded on a shared device, where she admitted to outsmarting everyone, especially that stupid girl who thinks she's reborn or something. It was over. Nora was suspended, her scholarship revoked, and Ryan came to see me again. He stood at the garden bench where we first met in this new life. He looked older, more tired, but his eyes were the same, searching, soft, full of words left unsaid. "I remember," he said quietly. I blinked. "Remember what?" "Everything." He told me about the dreams, the flashes of another life that had become clearer and clearer. How he remembered the smell of our old apartment, the sound of my laughter on a rainy day, the way I cried silently at night when he thought I was asleep. He remembered the mistakes, the things he never apologized for, the way I used to look at him with hope, until one day I didn't. "I wasn't ready to be the man you needed," he said. "But I am now. It should have meant something. Maybe a few months ago it would have. But now." I just smiled. "I didn't come back to wait for you," I said gently. "I came back to find myself." He nodded. There was no anger, just acceptance. We both knew this was goodbye. Liam found me later that evening, sitting under the old tree where we used to study. He handed me a cup of coffee, just the way I liked it. No words, just quiet understanding. "You okay?" he asked. I looked at him. This man who had always stood quietly in the background, never demanding anything, but always offering everything. For the first time, I whispered, "I think I am." Life didn't magically become perfect after that. I still had to work hard, still had nights when memories came rushing in like a tide. But I was stronger, wiser, and free. The past had shaped me, but it didn't define me. I walked away from a love that hurt me, forgave those who wronged me, and chose a life that I built with my own hands. A second chance isn't always about fixing what was broken. It's about finding the courage to walk a new path, and I did. I was reborn with my husband, only to watch him propose to someone else. But in the end, I let go, and that changed everything.